Our readings today present us with the difference between God and us. We hear in our first reading about how expansive God is, how much greater God is than us. But the same we celebrate today, not little John, the companion of Robin Hood, but little Juan Diego, reminds us of a God who comes to us where we are in order to lift us up to a new dignity. We are reminded that even in the name that he had, his original name was not Juan Diego, but he was part of the Chichimecha people, and his birth name was Cuauhtlatowitzan. Now, I practiced that a lot of times and I still messed it up. But it meant in his native language, talking eagle. Now, Juan Diego was someone who was baptized at the age of 50, and imagine him in the late 1400s, early 1500s, an indigenous man who converts a layman. He's older. He's not part of the European descent. He's 100% indigenous. He was very much on the outskirts of the world at the time, very much seemed like an insignificant person. Yet God chose him to be the vehicle for this great miracle of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Now you may know the story that Mary appeared to Juan Diego on this day, on December 9th, in the year 1531. He was on his way to church, and Mary appeared to him on the Tepeyac Hill and asked him to build a church on that spot in honor of her. So she said, go to the bishop and tell him this. Now you can imagine when a bishop hears of this indigenous layman who's elderly, who's claiming that he's had Mary appear to him, that he doesn't jump on ship right away. He says, give me some sort of sign that I know this is actually from God. So the next day, Mary appears to him again on December 10th. And he says, can you pick somebody else? Maybe I'm just a humble guy. I am not the type of person you want for this. And she says, no, I choose you. Come back tomorrow and I will give you a sign. Now the next day, December 11th, he went to go visit his uncle who was sick. And when he was caring for him, he had to go look for a priest. And so he wasn't able to meet Mary at the time in the place that she had designated the day before. So on December 12th, he was pretty gun-shy. He was nervous to encounter Mary, knowing that he had not followed what she had asked of him. So he went on the Tepeyac Hill, but not the normal course. He went kind of farther down below. And Mary came to him where he was and said, don't worry, your uncle will be well. But go up the hill and you will find the sign that the bishop needs. So he went up the hill and found on the top of that hill on December 12th some Castilian roses, which were not usually blooming at that time of year. And so he grabbed them and put them in his tilma, this very humble clothing made out of corn, and brought it to the bishop. And as he let down his tilma, it's described as a big flash appeared on his tilma, which was the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Mary presented herself as an indigenous person. Mary presented as indigenous. St. John Paul II said that the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe is the perfect model of evangelization. It's the perfect model of enculturation, of a God who comes to us, who recognizes the beauty of our culture and lifts it up to a higher dignity. It's really interesting being here in Marshalltown because we have parishioners who grew up speaking indigenous languages, for whom Spanish is their second language. And we even have parishioners who talk about the experience of being indigenous and having darker skin and being looked down upon. It's something that still exists today. And yet God is not deterred by that. He looks to the people who are on the outskirts, on the fringes, those who seem insignificant, to be the very vessels of His glory. One of the things I love about Juan Diego is how Mary refers to him. She says, Juan Diego, the smallest of my children. In Spanish, it's Juan Dieguito. There's this wonderful thing about the Spanish language where you add ito onto the end of it. You make it smaller, but also more endearing. So sometimes parishioners will call me Padrecito instead of just Padre. It's a way of making things smaller in order to make them more dear and loving. Well, it very much reflects Jesus, who we hear about in our gospel today. And the only passage we hear in the Gospels in which Jesus describes His own heart. He says, I am meek and humble of heart. What a great image for us as we look at the world around us, and as we are called in this Advent journey, to make ourselves little, to make ourselves itos, and recognizing that in our littleness we are most like God, that in our littleness we come to know in a deeper way the expansiveness of God's love for us. If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to please click subscribe below and help us to spread the good news of Jesus. God bless.